Greetings, fellow sports fans. We come in peace. Hello, everybody, and welcome into this out-of-this-world episode of UMass Sports Weekly, your number one source for all things UMass sports. I'm your extraterrestrial host, Tommy Kaludi, and let's get ready for a close encounter of the sports kind. It's a space theme. The Minutemen basketball team is slated to enter the A10 tournament this weekend as a 10 seed. Dr. Tim Dennehy comes in to tell you what that means for this team. After that, Alana and Liam will come on to talk about the firing of head coach John Micheletto and what that means for this Minutemen hockey team. AF Squared joins the set after that, breaking down what happened at this weekend's women's A10 basketball tournament. Then, to finish the show, John and Liam fly in from outer space to talk about the men's lacrosse team. We're reaching out for the stars on this show, and it's time to blast off. This is UMass Sports Weekly.
This is UMass Sports Weekly.
And welcome back in from the intro. Now, as you heard in the opening, the Minutemen basketball team has finished their regular season and the A10 tournament starts later this week. I'm in here with Dr. Tim Dennehy. Now, Tim, give us a little breakdown first. Just what happened this week? What should we know about for this team?
Well, the past 3 games, the Minutemen, they went 1-2, which, is
not good.
Pretty not great. Yeah, pretty not great. The last
That's
game,
really down to earth.
Yeah. So what we did, the Minutemen in LaSalle, the last game the Minutemen played against LaSalle was almost like a tune-up game because LaSalle is so bad, and we aren't that great either. The past 4 games either. But, the tune-up game right before the tournament, I think is really what the Minutemen needed. The game before, against URI, we actually scored a season-low 50 points. The Minutemen could not get the ball in the net. It was just not a good game for the Minutemen, especially since it was a rematch. That was the second time the Minutemen played URI this season. Did not go as well as the first time. So, really, it wasn't a good past 3 games. It wasn't a really strong way to finish off season. But like I said, that LaSalle game, it was good that was the last game of the season, the last game that the Minutemen played.
So as you mentioned, Tim, you lose to URI 68-50. Now, you've played 2 games against URI this season. Yeah. You won 1, you lost 1. Go into the A10 tournament this weekend. It's UMass versus URI in this rubber match. So, what changes do they need to make in order to really get ahead of URI and keep their season alive?
Well, they need to score. They absolutely need to score. Let's take a look at the comparison between these 2 games with URI, UMass. It's night and day between the 2 games. The X factors in both games was, in the first game, the Minutemen, the URI Rams, they lost. They were down 3 starters. They did not have 3 of their starters, which is it's very, very difficult to win that way. Especially in basketball, which is it's a team game, but it's such an individualized team game. The second game, what stuck out to me the most was the fact that Rashawn Holloway led the Minutemen in scoring with 11 points. When Rashawn Holloway is leading your team in scoring, it's a bad game. Jabari Hines, he had an absolutely terrible, terrible game. He only had 2 field goals out of over 10, 50. It was just not good. Not good for the Minutemen. But so next time, what do we have to do for this time coming around? We have to score the 3s. We have to get the 3 ball in the net. We need to stop their 3s. It's going to be a game. The past 2 games, the first 2 games of URI, the winner has been the one who could score the 3-point ball. So really, that's all it's going to come down to. I feel like the 3 is going to make a big, big impact on this first A10 tournament game.
Well, obviously the 3 is making a big impact in the NBA with all the records Steph Curry is setting. So the game's changing, and maybe the Minutemen need to adapt. Now, Tim, for the A10 tournament, looking beyond UMass, give us a scope of what this conference looks like. What should we expect going into this tournament as an overall preview with regards to the NCAA tournament?
It's tough. It's gonna be a tough road if we want to take a quick preview of the A10 tournament coming up. Like I said, first we have URI, that's very, very difficult in itself. I really, if we can get past them, we'll play VCU. Now VCU, we did beat VCU this season, so it is absolutely possible for us to win that game. However, we got to get past URI, who we just lost, just awful to, and. On top of that, if we get past VCU, we're in the semifinals. We're playing either Davidson or another team that Davidson is playing, and it's not going to look good. The finals, we may be getting a little ahead of ourselves. I'm not really sure if we'll ever make it that far in the next coming years, but who knows? The Champions Center may have a turnaround. Not this year, though. It's not really looking strong. Hopefully, we'll make it past into the quarterfinal, and we'll make it past URI, get to VCU. That's all I'm really hoping for. VCU, it's going to be a tough game if we can get past URI. I do not believe we'll make it past the second round.
Well, there you have it, ladies and gentlemen. A tough road ahead for the Minutemen, but not all hope is lost. I mean, a lot of space movies everybody thought were going to be terrible, and they ended up being like half decent.
Absolutely.
Like the remake of War of the Worlds, great movie. Tom Cruise saving us from aliens.
He looked good.
Maybe Troy Davis and Jabari Hines save us from the rest of the A-10.
Not as good as Tom Cruise, but
Not as good as Tom Cruise, but they'll do their job.
absolutely.
All right, thanks a lot, Tim. Don't touch that dial, because when we come back, we're going to be talking some Minutemen hockey and a little bit of a change-up at the head coaching position, so stay tuned. Welcome back into the show. Unfortunately, this weekend, the Minutemen hockey team season came to an end as they took on BU in the first round of the Hockey East tournament. BU a number 5 seed, UMass the number 12 seed. It didn't go well for the Minutemen as they lost 3-2 and 5-4. Following that, Ryan Bamford, the athletic director for UMass, fired head coach John Micheletto. Now I'm here with Liam Byrne and Alana Alonji to talk a little bit about that. So, Liam, what are the rumors surrounding Micheletto's firing and potential people we may have filling in for him next year?
Yeah, well, of course, these are just rumors, but there are a few names in the hat for the head coaching position next year. 2 coaches coming from good old Schenectady, New York, which is where I'm from.
That was Schenectady.
No, Schenectady.
Is it a K or a C?
C.
Yeah.
Schenectady.
Yeah,
Yeah.
you learn something new every day.
Yeah. So the 2014 national champs, Union College. Both their coaches, Rick Bennett and associate head coach Joe Dumas. Bennett, he led Union to their first ever championship, national championship. 99, 45, 18 career record. And he was also the Spencer Penrose Award winner of the National Head Coach of the Year. He's also from Springfield, Mass. Joe Dumas.
Close.
Yeah, very close to here. Joe Dumas he mainly coached the offense and the power play for Union and guided the highest scoring offense in the ECAC in 2 of his last 3 seasons. Also, he's a great recruiter. 8th and 12th of the nation's highest scoring freshman classes in his last 2 seasons. So, to be honest, what I'm thinking is that Rick Bennett will probably not be at the helm for UMass next season because he just signed an extension with Union till the season 2021 and 2022. But Joe Dumas is definitely a name that UMass might be thinking about for next season, Tommy. But the other candidates we have are former grad assistant at UMass, Darren Yopik, Bill Riga, and Ben Barr. You see there the tweet from Jeff Cox. He's a hockey reporter and recruiter. He said, if I'm Ryan Bamford, the first 3 calls I make are to Darren Yopik, Bill Riga, and Ben Barr. So those guys are definitely in the mix too. So, day after Micheletto gets fired, you got 5 guys who are looking for this job, and we'll see what Bamford does as the times come up for trying to find a new head coach for the Minutemen.
That is interesting to note for Union, that team being turned around as quickly as they did because they don't give out hockey scholarships. Mm-hmm. And also, it's no easy feat. The assistant coach who coached the offense, the ECAC has teams like Harvard and Quinnipiac. Yeah. Quinnipiac is one of the top 5 teams in the country. Harvard has Jimmy Vesey, the leading scorer in the country. So clearly we have 2 coaches on our list that really know what they're doing. So definitely would be somebody to key in on if we were to hint to as who to call.
Yeah, definitely have to...
Union.
We got to look into it.
Do we have a hotline number?
I think we do.
That I can get? No? Okay.
Union.
All right. So, Alana, we're going to turn to you now. You covered this team all season.
Unfortunately.
Yeah. It wasn't very
and
fun.
we're both on the same page there, I think.
So, I want to ask you, how does this coaching change affect the program going forward and where they'll stand next season?
Well, I think we also saw this coming, and we were definitely waiting for it. But going forward, they're losing 2 key pieces to this team, Shane Walsh and Ben Gallagher. Those were, 2 pretty important pieces to the lineup. Shane Walsh had 18 goals, 12 assists for 30 points on the season, so he was obviously one of their biggest offensive contributors. And Ben Gallagher on the blue line, who was a great D-man. He had great vision on the ice, and I think they're going to miss both of those players a lot. But I think this team and the fans have grown accustomed to a losing culture. But that's not to say that we have some great guys coming back next year. We'll take a look. Dennis Kravchenko is going to be a junior next year. He obviously had 12 goals, 16 assists on the season was
And that was with injury.
Right. He didn't play all 36 games, and he was -5 on the season for his plus-minus rating, which was the lowest on the team, even though it's still negative. Coming back next year also is going to be senior defenseman Mark Hetnick. He played 30 games, had a goal and a few assists on the season.
Now, I have to ask, you did put his plus-minus on. Is there a reason for that?
Didn't? Well, his wasn't as good as others.
Just making sure.
And I think they're going to probably go with Nick Renyard in goal next season. He'll be a sophomore. He played the most games this season for the Minutemen. Had some pretty good numbers. Not great, but I think compared to the other goalies, he's going to be the #1 guy. But this team has a lot of depth, and I don't think it's talent that they need going forward, and I think the coaching change was the biggest thing. And Bamford is really focusing on somebody that's going to fit this position, not necessarily who has the most wins, anything like that. It's who's going to be the best for UMass, who's going to create the best chemistry going forward. So.
Now, I want to close up the segment, little wild card. You said we have enough talent, Alana, and that's definitely true. We definitely have some talented players, but assuming maybe somebody gets signed, somebody leaves, transfers, what, in both of your opinions, is this team's biggest need from a recruitment standpoint?
I think defensemen. I think they need a really solid, good defenseman, someone that's going to get in the lane, someone that's going to be really aggressive on the boards. I think they weren't aggressive enough this season, and somebody that's going to be a leader off the ice. I think that's the biggest thing. I mean, I think there's a lot of guys coming back that can fill that position, but a really good, solid defenseman, because there's only going to be 2 senior defensemen next year, Brendan Baxendale and Mark Hetnick. So they got to keep getting some good D-men. I think that will be a key for them. And because obviously they can score. They have Pagozzi, Yakobelis, Plevy, Kravchenko all coming back if they don't sign or anything like that. Trento. So up front, I think they're good. I think I think Renyard needs to keep improving. And this team looks promising. It's just the coaching that's gotta change for them.
And Liam, what do you think?
Yeah, I'd have to agree with the defense, as Alana was saying. Maybe add another key scorer on offense. You know, she mentioned Bogozzi and Yakobelis and those guys. Maybe the new coach brings in another hot shooter for UMass in their offense. And I think another goalie would definitely help, because you can definitely see from this season the goaltenders were very spotty. You know, we were going from game to game with Renyard and Wakaluk, and it wasn't consistent. So I think if you bring in another key goaltender, that will definitely help this defense and this whole team, I think next season will be a good look for the Minutemen.
Giving my 5 cents, because I covered this team last year, they need a goaltender.
Yes.
Yeah.
This is no joke. Like we made plenty of jokes last year. They need a goaltender desperately, because when you have players you have Dale, Renyard, and Wakaluk all getting pulled multiple times in a season, it's ridiculous. So. There you have it. Coach Micheletto's gone. We're ushering in a new era, and we'll keep you updated on all the newest developments that come with the Look for the Coach. Thanks a lot, guys. Thanks. When we come right back, we're going to talk about the women's basketball team and their trip to the A10 tournament this weekend. Stay tuned. And welcome back into the show. This weekend, the UMass women's basketball team rode a 5-game winning streak into the A10 tournament. I'm here with Allie Furlow and Alex Francisco. I don't know why. Whenever you two are on the set, I just forget how to read. But either way, nonetheless, I think it's just age.
I think you're intimidated by us.
I'm actually 65, so I think it just might be age. It's getting to me. But anyway, so women's go into the A10 tournament on a 5-game winning streak. Allie, tell us what happened. How'd they do? Are we still alive?
They are still alive. We did pretty well in the A10 tournament. So on March 2nd, they played against LaSalle. And just as we predicted, they beat them. They made 4 out of 10 of their 3-pointers, which isn't that great, but they had.
That is 12 points.
That is
12 points.
But they had 34 points in the first half, and Sierra Dillard made 24 points, leading to an 81-65 victory. The next day, they versed number 7 Fordham, which didn't go so well for them. It was a pretty close game for the whole entire time. They were tied in the first half, 35-35. And Dillard led the team with 19 points.
And then what happened?
You gonna make it over there or what? Rashida Tambilla, it was her last game being a senior. She made only 6 points, but she made 6 defensive rebounds, which was really good for her. In the fourth quarter, Dillard did make a defensive rebound that did lead the team into overtime, which was a really good play. But in OT, the Rams just pulled away with 3 minutes left and ultimately won 73-64.
Great. Well, actually, this is a pretty good development for a team that started off the season, 0-12, I believe?
Winless in January.
Winless in January, so a team that definitely
Most of
came on
February.
strong, and definitely a young team. So definitely not something for them to hang their heads about. Obviously, playing a great Fordham team, going to overtime, and winning a game against LaSalle, who they beat them. That's what we'll say about LaSalle. Now, there was another big development over the weekend, Alex, that you would like to tell us about.
Yes, so Coach Sharon Dolly was fired this weekend.
Burn.
Jamie, our producer, if you don't mind bringing up the press release that UMass Athletics came out. So the press release says, Massachusetts Director of Athletics Ryan Bamford announced on Sunday that women's basketball head coach Sharon Dolly has been relieved of her duties. At the helm of the program for 6 seasons, Dolly compiled a record of 46-133 with a record of 12-18 in 2016. We thank Sharon for her solid efforts on behalf of UMass women's basketball, Bamford said. We wish her well personally and professionally moving forward. A national search to fill the position is underway. We believe that our women's basketball program has the necessary resources to compete for Atlantic 10 championships and national postseason play. Our expectation of building a championship caliber program presents an exciting opportunity for our department and our next head coach.
Now, I want to ask you first, how long do you think that statement has been prepared with, like, just insert coach's name here
You know,
at the University of Massachusetts?
it's been a while, at least all through January, they've been thinking about writing it because, like I just said, these girls were winless in January, winless for most of February. And
then Love struck on Valentine's Day.
You're right. This was just a very predictable firing, especially given that we do have a new athletic director in Bamford this year. So it seems like he's really coming in, cleaning house with everything that's not working. And I don't know if you can blame him. Changes really needed to be made, despite that little winning streak they had there at the end of the season, which was excellent. We got a little glimpse into what these girls are capable of playing like.
The appetizer
But,
into what they could be.
You know, it doesn't erase how bad they were for so long. Whatever adjustments Dolly made that last little stint of the season, really they were too little too late. They needed to come a lot sooner because we sat here week after week and dissected these girls' play and pointed out all the problems in their playing, and nothing seemed to change until they finally were able to get hot, but it was just too late, like I said.
Now, I want to enlighten you girls on a couple things. One, Coach Micheletto, who was fired, we just talked about him last segment. His record as the Minuteman coach was basically the same, around 8 to 12 wins every year, ton of losses, never competing in the Big East. Coach Dolly has actually gotten better. She's actually shown progress. Do you think there was any saving grace, any way she should have been kept, or was this just writing on the wall?
You know, I think where UMass wants to be, maybe she did progress year after year, but I don't think it was enough.
She did go from 3 wins her first year to 12 this year. So
You're right.
multiply
but then
3
again,
times 4 and you get 12.
In the 6 seasons that she was here, yes, she made these improvements, but with the talent they have, I think she should have made a better little run into at least the A10 tournament. Maybe not the NCAA, but at least in the A10 tournament play, we didn't see much out of this women's basketball team during her tenure here with us. So, I mean, how long are you going to keep her to say, well, this is improving little inch by inch, until you just say, we need someone that's going to take this team to the next level quickly?
Allie, any disagreement, or was she on her way out?
I completely agree. It's just she was making these little bits of improvement, but she needed to have more and more of an improvement as the years went on. So I could see it coming.
Well, there you have it. Sharon Dolly also being fired. You have 2 coaches fired, but unlike the Minutemen hockey team, you have a really solid core here with Sierra Dillard coming back, Bria Stallworth coming back.
Whole team's coming back, Tommy.
Whole team beside Rashida Timbilla. And
Right. So, this team is very, very young. But like you just said, a lot of these girls are coming back next year. Jamie, if you can pull up this next graphic. You have Bria Stallworth. She's just a freshman this year.
I'm really looking forward to watching this girl continue to grow and mature as a player. She's already been stellar, but I think she'll really be special for this Minutewomen team. Sierra Dillard, our leading scorer, she'll just be a junior next year. You have girls like Alex Stiff and Kimber Hill. I think they'll make great leaders next year in their senior year season, but only one senior were graduating, but unfortunately that is really going to put a dent in this roster's defense next year, I believe. Rashida Timbilla, over 1,000 career rebounds. That's incredible. She was 14th in the nation among active players, and Rashida was just a great leader, and just her presence was very strong on that court, and I mean, I really think she's irreplaceable next year. That's going to be their biggest struggle, is finding a girl who can just get up in the paint and get you these 50 possessions to get more scoring opportunities. She's just been huge in that sense. And UMass seems to have, just with all sports, honestly, not just women's basketball, they just seem to have a problem recruiting. So if they can get over that little hump, finding someone to try to fill the shoes of Rashida, then they'll be in decent shape next year. I think they'll be able to make a great run in the A-10, given this roster.
All right, well, there you have it. Sharon Dolly is fired, but this team does have a bright future, so make sure to keep up with us for developments, obviously, on who gets hired, and thank you very much, girls. Now, when we come back, we're going to finish up the show. John Anderson comes back, Liam Byrne is on, and we're going to talk some men's lacrosse. Stay tuned. Earlier this week, the Minutemen lacrosse team took on Brown, a nationally ranked team. After a tough loss to Harvard, 10-9 in overtime, we like to see if the Minutemen could bounce back, and now I'm here with Liam Byrne, John Anderson. Liam, you covered that game. Did they bounce back?
No.
Yikes.
They did not.
What happened in this game?
It was a bad one.
Now, when you say bad, are we talking like Transformers 2, like you really like the action, but ugh? Or
exactly like that, Tommy.
Or was it
Exactly
like Titanic bad, where it's like...
No, I'd say the Transformers. Titanic was a good movie. Right? Well, we'll talk about that later. But anyway, Brown, yes. Number 7 in the country. UMass lost 15-7 to Brown. It was just like today's game. We'll get to that against Albany today.
A little bit of foreshadowing.
Yeah, a little foreshadowing. See, we'll get to it. But one main problem that UMass had during this game was the face-offs. So here you'll see for UMass that their face-off percentage and for the season and for that game was not good at all. As you can see, Brown 18 for 25 and UMass just 7 for 25 in their face-offs. And to get the ball, you have to win the face-offs. It's just common lacrosse knowledge. So as you see in the season, UMass 44 for 107. That's a .411 percentage, and their opponents are outdoing them 63 to 107, and that's a .589 percentage. And that's just step one of lacrosse. You got to get the ball, and then you have your offense, defense. I hope everyone knows lacrosse watching, who knows lacrosse.
All right, John Anderson, a lacrosse vet, can tell you, once you get the face-up, you control possession. You don't control.
It is intense.
Well, hold on.
It is intense.
Before we get to me talking about the Albany game, let's let Liam finish his point, because so far everything he has said does not apply to the next game. More foreshadowing.
Oh, more foreshadowing.
Yeah, we can go on that.
So, Liam, you mentioned face-offs.
Yes.
I mean, the only thing this team has seemed to be able to do is score this season. Even that kind of lacked against Brown. I mean, has face-offs been a struggle all season, or is this some new apparition that we have to worry about?
No, I mean, as you saw in that graphic, it's definitely been all season. Like you said, they do score a lot, though, but in the first half, they really don't score as much. They're kind of like coming from behind, They start off slow, and it kind of happened in Harvard, too, against Harvard. Harvard was up 3-0, and then finally UMass came out of nowhere with 5 straight goals.
Lacrosse is just a game of runs. That's just how it is.
Yes, it's just how it is. You get on a run, you can either hold it, or another team will just come back and do another run like Harvard did. So face-offs have been a struggle, but it doesn't get any better for UMass coming up this weekend, especially as they play North Carolina. But as we get to John here,
well,
it was a bad one today.
Before they had to tackle North Carolina, they had to tackle Albany, who I believe they are also nationally ranked.
They are, yes.
12.
They're number 12,
And only
which
going
is
up.
which
Brown made the jump from 7 to 5 after beating
so
UMass.
12, lower than 7, lower than 5. Albany's going up.
Yeah.
And assuming that they won today, they'll be going up. Did they, in fact, win?
Oh, they did a little bit more than win.
When you say a little bit more.
It was embarrassment. It was humiliation. It was behind-the-back passes, taking rips from the point behind the back at the net while no one's looking. None of them went in, but like they were doing behind-the-back passes the whole game. And it's not the Iroquois Nation.
Because the middle school.
In past years, wow. See, that's where Liam's from. In past years, it was the Lyle twins plus one of their cousins were the ones who were slinging the lemon up there at Albany.
Slinging the
lemon. But now they're all gone. They're all gone.
The Winklevoss Lyles.
Yeah, they were the ones.
Thorn in our side.
But now we've got Connor Fields and Seth Oaks. They're the ones slinging the lemon up there now. And
lemon, you got Field and Oak.
Somehow
nature's
crops
everywhere.
and everything. You know.
And the thing is, though, and I noticed this first in the Brown game, because last year when UMass played Brown, Dylan Malloy had 7 goals against UMass, and the 2 other attackmen had 4 and 3 goals. But this year, that wasn't really the case. It was all the midfielders for Brown doing it. Same case in this game. Oaks, one of the top lacrosse players in the country, the leading scorer for Albany, had, well, I'll get to it in a second, but they didn't do that great, and it's because the midfielders for UMass are not playing great at covering the other midfielders for the opposite teams. It's the close D, the 3 seniors. They're the ones that are shutting down the attackmen. And so then, but quickly I need to point out face-offs. UMass dominated face-offs today.
Did they?
They did. Noah Rack is the word, and the word is progress. 9 for 12 on the face-offs. Tom Myers, freshman, 6 for 9 on the face-off. So UMass was getting the possessions, and Rack would add another 4 ground balls after that. So UMass was getting the possessions, but then when they got down, offensively, UMass did nothing right this game. Nothing clicked. The 4 goals, 2 of them were scored when the backups were in the game. But the Albany attackmen only had 6 goals on the game. So it was the other 10 goals were all scored by midfielders. So it's the defensive middies that are not doing their job currently for UMass. They're still dynamite in the transition game as they have been all season, but not in this game. And I'd also want to point out Blaze Reardon, the goaltender. What a lacrosse name. Oh, yeah. Blaze Reardon. Goaltender for Albany.
Blade.
He only played 3 quarters today, 14 saves. Some of the most amazing saves I've seen. And this guy's he don't move much.
Yeah, he's a big dude.
A lot of these shots are going right into his net. 2 goals allowed.
Last season, he had a goal, and he went from goal to goal. He just went.
Wow.
Yeah, it was crazy.
And he was blazing.
Spin move and everything. He was blazing. Yeah, for sure.
He was Blaze Reardon. Buddy Carr, goose egg, no points, nothing. Our leading scorer. Nothing. And it's not even that we saw Jack Kelly, the goaltender for Brown, also dynamite against UMass. And coming up this Saturday, UNC with Brian Balcom made 12 saves in their 1-goal overtime loss to number 1 Denver on Saturday. Yeah. So it's only going to get harder for them. But the good thing is that these games are the games that test it as heading into CAA play. These teams are a lot harder than the teams of the CAA.
So really quickly, just one more question for you guys. What do you think is the issue with these midfielders? You think it's a lack of conditioning, or is there a structural system that's not there?
There's a lot of fundamental issues right now. Passing's a very big issue with the midfielders right now for UMass. When it looks like they're moving it fast, someone makes a mistake, and it goes down the other way.
I think it's the teams that we've been playing, the nationally ranked teams that we've been playing. Albany, Brown, Harvard, Ohio State, even though we've got the victory. But it's just a level of competition that these other teams are over the UMass midfielders.
All right, well, there you have it. Unfortunately, that's going to do it for us this week for the show. Now, remember, tune in. Make sure to follow us on Twitter. Keep all the developments going for different coach hirings. Remember, women's basketball, men's hockey still need coaches. We got a Snapchat. We've been using that all the time. Facebook, Snapface. Periscope, Tim's using it right now. It looks great behind that camera, real good. I also, as a last minute, want to give a shout out to the UMass Women's Club Hockey team, who is on their way right now to, I believe, Michigan to compete in nationals for the 3rd straight year. Good luck, ladies. Unfortunately, like I've said, that's going to do it for us this week. We'll be here. We're taking next week off, but after that, we're starting our spring season with baseball, softball, and both lacrosses. It's going to be great. Have a great break, UMass, and see you here in 2 weeks.